This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
This is one half of the NWA U.S. Tag Team Champions, the Thoroughbred, Anthony Andrews, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Let's ride.
Hello.
How's it going?
And welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web. The trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube at Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it is a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the adorable Dick Daddy Thoroughbred Anthony Andrews.
How's it going? You having a good day, man?
It's a bit cold. A lot colder than I'd like it to be living in California, but I'm good.
Gotcha. Well, things are going to be heating up soon out there in California. I know we got a lot of wrestling coming your way in just a week or so here.
That is for sure, yeah. And looking forward to it as well. Hopefully it's not as cold.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what's coming up next for you?
So for me here in San Antonio, I actually have the championship on one side of me at RCW in San Antonio. I'll be wrestling down there on the 25th of March, defending the RCW International Championship that I've had off and on for about 3 years now. After that, I'll actually be heading out to Burbank, California for Wrestling Pro Wrestling. I'm going to be there at the end of the month during that WrestleMania week. There may be some other ones, but I'm still ironing all that out. And then Chicago, the beginning of April, the 7th and 8th, the NWA. You can see to the other side of me, sorry, I know it's an audio podcast, but on the other side here, I have the NWA U.S. Tag Team Championship. And we're going to be defending those in Chicago on April 7th at 312 for NWA.
No word on who you're defending them against yet, correct?
No, not yet. Everyone's barking the Savages. We just defended recently on USA against the Spectaculars. Who else? The Fixers stole some old defunct titles, and they keep running around yelling about stuff. So right now we don't know, but those seem to be the main three that are making the most noise. So
yes, and obviously we can find you on NWA Power every weekly.
Yes, so Power is Tuesdays at 6:05, and then NWA USA is going to be Saturdays at noon Eastern Time.
Right, and where can we find you on social media in your merchandise?
Social media, a lot of it's going to either be the Thoroughbred or Thick Daddy Thoroughbred. As far as merchandise, I'm actually starting something interesting this month where people are going to be able to individually either sponsor me or subscribe. I'm going to be offering some special merchandise. I have a shirt on right now that won't be available for purchase unless you're one of those subscribing fans. So it'll have all my information on social media. Like I said, if you look up the Thoroughbred Anthony Andrews, I'll have more information on that. But there will be different tiers. One's just going to be a video story shout out. The other one, you'll actually be able to put your name or your company logo on my entrance gear. And so every time that there's, a live stream, any of that. And then the top tier is going to have all of those, as well as a shirt or some merchandise item that is specific for those customers that month. It might be available in the future on other avenues, but at least at first, that first custom made order will just be for subscribing fans.
Are you doing that independently, or is that going to be like on a Patreon?
That's just independently. It'll
Okay.
all be through me, either PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. And like I said, I'm about to release all that. It should actually already be up at this point. So I'll have all that on my social media. It should be pinned right at the top there.
All right, and you don't even have to go looking for his social media. All of the links will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox.
Perfect.
All right, we mentioned it. You work for the NWA and Billy Corgan.
Yes.
Can you tell us about your relationship with the company?
Absolutely. It's been fantastic. So I started there June of last year in Kentucky. And a lot of people don't know. I just basically made myself available. Was able to have a match on that show. Didn't have anything as far as a contract, anything set up with them. They saw that match, and Billy Corgan stopped in for a second because he was actually playing a concert that night nearby. So he had to leave. He wasn't there that night. And then he wound up seeing the match later, pulled me to the side it was the Always Ready pay-per-view. And let me know. He was like, hey, I loved everything about the match. Want you to be a part of the company. And I've been with the company ever since. AJ is my cousin, so obviously there was that aspect to it too. So that pairing fit together well. But AJ had already been there. He had been doing a lot of great work. So I think they just saw us both working hard and decided to put us together. And since they did that, we've been unstoppable.
And you are currently signed with NWA.
Right. So NWA is my main promotion. I do other independent promotions around the country. I've been working about 16 years, but NWA is my promotion. Yes.
What did it kind of mean to you to finally get, a pro wrestling contract?
So as far as having just one stable place, it's a big difference. They're just a huge machine behind you. So that's a big difference. A lot of the stuff that I do at NWA, the style of work that I have, a lot of that has been just years and years that I've been doing that on the independents. The difference is once you step into that arena, it's such a bigger platform. Billy Corgan has so many fans. The NWA has so many fans and so much history and tradition that all of a sudden there's so much more attention, notoriety, and I'm getting new fans every single day. And they're diehard fans already. And that may have been the same thing that I was doing as far as the way that I wrestle and things like that. But now it's just on such a bigger platform. So it means a lot. And in turn, I take that and I view it as my responsibility that they invest all of that in me. They invest a lot of money. They invest a lot of time, even more money as far as all the TV time and the crew that we have there, all the lighting, all the cameras, everything that we have behind us. So to me, it's my job to take that and travel around the country, which AJ and I do. Country Gentlemen are in, let's see, we have Kentucky. We just booked one for South Carolina, Texas. We have 2 in Tennessee. We defended the belts already in Tampa. I'm trying to think. I know there's, states that I'm leaving out. We're going to Chicago. To me, that's our part of the bargain, is they invest everything in us. They give us this opportunity. We worked hard. We were able to win the U.S. Tag Team Championships, and now we have to go around the country and represent the NWA. Any team that wants to fight for the championships, they get a shot. You can prove that you belong in the same arena as the NWA. All you have to do is let us know where and when. We'll fight you for the U.S. Tag Team Championships. And what happens if you beat us? I mean, that means you beat one of the best tag teams in the country. And I don't care who you're putting up against us. That I stand by that statement. So they all have this opportunity, and we're expected to travel around and show what the NWA can do anywhere in the country, and we look forward to that.
It does kind of seem like you're taking the world traveler route of we have these championships where we are representing this company, but
Exactly.
we're going everywhere so everybody could see that we are champions and that we're fighting champions.
Absolutely. You can be the best. There might be somebody out there that's better than me and better than us. We haven't found them yet, and no one's going to know unless you're traveling around showing everyone what you can do. We can sit in our backyard all day, or AJ can stay in Tennessee, I can stay in Texas and say, "Hey, we're the best in this entire country. We have the US Tag Team Championships," or we can travel every single weekend and prove it. And I was in Utah recently with a lot of very important people in wrestling. And I have no doubt in my mind that what we do is different than everyone else. It's different than every other tag team that's competing in the U.S. right now. There's a lot of feedback. There's certain things that we do, and a lot of that comes from us being family and that connection with us tagging more and more around the country, all these different areas. We're able to do something, bring something different to a show, to every experience that other teams aren't able to do, even at high levels. We have the support of the NWA behind us, and we don't have certain chains on us that some other places may have. So that gives us a lot of freedom to travel around and show how good we are. So we appreciate that part of it too.
Yeah, of course. Or you could just be like the Fixers and steal championships and pretend like you're champions.
Right? That's yeah. I'm not really sure what they're trying to do with that. Like I said, they don't even have pants. I don't know why they're stealing belts that aren't recognized by anyone. I don't know what their plan is.
Those weren't the old championships, correct? Those weren't the new ones.
Correct. They came out and stole the old ones. We still have the beautiful new U.S. Tag Team Championships. I have it right behind me, sitting here. I'm looking at it. It's got two nameplates and it says "Country" on one, "Gentleman" on the other, and that's what the NWA recognizes. But the Billy tried to give them to the Fixers when they were still champions before we beat them in Knoxville, and Wrecking Ball did not want them. So I don't know what Jay had to say about any of that, but we beat them in Knoxville. They presented us with the new tag team championships that are recognized by the NWA. The old ones are defunct, and they snuck out. I don't know, like.
Just write
I'm trying to think.
on the piece of tape on top of them. Just write hardcore, like McCoy did.
That might be their plan. I don't know. That might be, but either way, I mean, all anyone has to do is let us know where we're meeting for a fight. When the NWA tells us, "Hey, you're fighting on this date against these people. Your championships are on the line," we're always going to show up. We're going to defend them, and we're going to beat whoever's across the ring from us. It's going to be the best fight in the entire town. There's no doubt of that. So I don't know why the Fixers took them, but it's more just a nuisance to us. We're not really that concerned about it right now.
Well, let's talk about the night that you actually won the United States Tag Team Championships. It was in Knoxville. It was the first ever live NWA Power. What did that moment mean to you? Being in Knoxville. Obviously you're a Cazana cousin. And having it on the first live Power and being trusted with this is the first time we're going live. The belts are going on you guys.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. Like I said, the NWA has given us such a huge platform since we've been together, and that was in Knoxville, especially for the Kazanas. Everyone knows how big that is, and I think that came across because no matter what happened in that fight, we would have known that our family was there. But that's what kept feeding us, kept making us want to work harder. And you talk about it being the first live power. I don't think anyone has mentioned this anywhere on social media or podcasts. I haven't heard about it, at least. About 10 minutes, maybe a little bit less before we go live. I'd been sitting there thinking before I even traveled out to Tennessee, because I'm in Texas. And the whole way I was like, man, it's live. It's live. Something's going to mess up. Something's going to go wrong. I don't know what it is. Something's going to go wrong. Sure enough, 10 minutes before we go to live, somebody comes back and lets us know, hey, they peek their head in. I assume they peek their head in the other locker rooms and let them know, hey, the ring broke.
Oh, no.
And we're just sitting there. We're like, what happened? Yeah, a weld snapped. I'm like, all right, well, is the ring going to stay up? They were like, we're trying to basically makeshift it so it doesn't fall, but just be careful. Which you've got Wrecking Ball Legursky, you've got Jay Bradley, you've got AJ, and you've got me. So that's a lot of weight. Yeah, and when you're in there and you're in a fight, you don't worry about any of that. If the ring comes down, it comes down. So we're lucky. They just let us know, hey, the ring's broken. All right, we went out there, and I think that's a part of it. That's a part of being in the NWA is they knew they had 4 guys who could go out there and still have a fight and weren't going to freak out. But yeah, the weld snapped right before we went live, and we still put on a show. I haven't seen anything anywhere on social media about, hey, it looked like these guys were worried or scared about something or anything else. We just all went out there and still fought, performed, and did everything that we had to do. So yeah, the first Power Live was a big deal, and also I think as far as everyone in the company, they chose the right people to be there, because you have to be able to perform under pressure and in those circumstances where they come back and tell you, hey, anytime you hit the ropes, that might be it. You might just fall out of the ring. The show could be over for the night. So yeah, that was a fun little nugget that I don't think anyone has shared so far.
That's crazy, because when I had Joe Cazana on the show last week, he told me an off-air story about something similar happening at, I believe, Always Ready.
Really? Oh, see, I was there and didn't know about that one.
Yeah, like he was saying, like we clamped the turnbuckle post on, and we were praying that it stayed on, and it stayed on.
Knoxville must just be one of those jinx towns, but we always get the show in the ring. So I didn't know about Always Ready, and I was at that one too. That's the first place that AJ and I teamed together. So I didn't know about that, but yeah, Knoxville, we'll have to always be ready, apparently.
Or maybe just buy a new ring.
Yeah, that's not for that town specifically. I don't think that's NWA's ring. I think that town they use somebody else's, so that's why. Yeah, no, their stuff is all 100%. So.
Well, I don't know if this goes into anything, on that NWA Power. Maybe for you, maybe not, but that was the first episode of Power, I believe, since the passing of Jay Briscoe. I mean, the graphic appeared. So did that ever cross your mind that you're representing tag team pro wrestling when we lost maybe one of the greatest tag team wrestlers?
Absolutely, and it's not even a matter of trying to pay any homage or anything like that to him. I met him one time. It was at a Ring of Honor dojo back in 2014. So I really had very little interaction with him. You just kind of keep that in mind during that time, because there's nothing that I can do that could accent more than what he did in his life and in his career. In his life more than his career, So I think you just go into that you look at how he treated family and how he cared about his family, and you kind of keep that in mind. Like, that's the most important thing on that night, is making sure everyone has a moment to reflect on him and his life, but also clearly he loved wrestling, but clearly that wasn't the most important part of his life. He had a family that he cared about and that he loved. So if there's any way that we can show that, how important family is and how you protect each other and take care of each other and make sure your family's happy, that's the only thing that we could hope to do in that moment. But in the back, there were a lot of people who either had the armbands on, who talked about him, things like that. And that was just a huge loss. And from that one time that I met him, Jay and Mark weren't actually, I believe they were at the dojo because there was a show that night. They didn't have anything to do with the training, the seminar, anything that was going on. And both of them sat there the entire time, watched what we were doing, and it's like they couldn't help it. They jumped in the ring and they were like, all right, hey, you guys, this and this, maybe try this, do this a little bit different. How we were successful was it. And I don't have any belief that they were paid a penny for that. Like, I know they were paid by Ring of Honor for what they're regularly paid for, but they weren't part of that seminar. They had nothing else except they saw a bunch of people that cared about wrestling, that were trying to get better, and they couldn't help but jump in the ring and work with those guys. So something like that, it's definitely a huge loss. And I realize just little things. I was sorry, I know I'm getting a little long-winded with it, but
Continue. I love all of
yeah,
this stuff.
yeah, and that's the thing, is I never sat down and was like, hey, the Briscoes, I want to take this move, this move, this move from them. And then I was watching wrestling. It was actually the pay-per-view that I saw most recently. And someone did something in a tag team match. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, I always love when that happens. And we do this certain arm. And I sat there, and I was like, huh, the first time I ever saw that was the Briscoes. And I was like, there are things that they influence that I didn't even, in my head, acknowledge, like, hey, I'm gonna kind of take this idea from the Briscoes and implement it. But they're that influential to where there are parts of my tag team matches that I've had on NWA where I've pulled from their ideas, and I didn't even realize it. That's how big of a part of tag team wrestling they are, because there's only a handful of places to look and see new and exciting ideas and techniques for tag team wrestling.
Right.
And they were one of those teams for such a long time. So it was a big deal that night, and it's a big deal, and it's definitely something that if people don't know, if they're new to wrestling, regardless of what you like, regardless of what you see, if there's a lot of like blood, or you think it's all hardcore stuff, go and watch their matches, because even ladder matches, hardcore matches, I was lucky enough during that weekend, Ring of Honor, to go up and see them in their hometown in Delaware.
Oh, wow.
And you can watch their wrestling. Yeah, they will get everyone excited. So it's something different to watch them perform and realize how good of wrestlers and performers they were, and they make you forget about that. It's really interesting to watch.
That's awesome. That truly. Thank you for sharing, a Jay Briscoe story.
Yeah. I appreciate him sharing his knowledge with me when he didn't have to. So definitely to share a fun story and a good story. I think that's what everyone's trying to do in that situation.
Oh, definitely. Okay, keeping the memory alive, right?
Yeah.
And I've had the honor of seeing them wrestle 3 times. So I'm happy about
nice.
that I got to see them perform live and do it the best.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
All right. Now let's get into your tag team, the Country Gentlemen. Can you tell us about AJ Cazana and your relationship with him?
Absolutely. I mean, he's my cousin, and that's one of the big things that makes all of it so fun is getting to do that with someone who's not just family. It's a different experience getting to look across the ring and know that the person over there has your back in every situation. There have been matches I get somebody cheap shots me and AJ's right there. And I'll watch it back. As soon as I get hit, he's right on top of the guy. And there's something different about that, but also knowing how driven he is. He pointed out that the Cazanas have been in Knoxville for 70 years of wrestling and in NWA for so much of that time, and they haven't won a championship. They haven't won NWA Gold.
Yeah.
But he was able to bring that to the family. And he always points out we were together, and I appreciate that. But just seeing how driven he is, that's one of the things with being in a tag team is if you wind up in a tag team somewhere in the country and that person doesn't have the same ideas, the same drive that you have, it can really be a detrimental thing. But winding up in that tag team with AJ and seeing how hard he's pushing for that next level, he always wants more and more and more. And that's good. That's how we wound up with the U.S. Tag Team Championships. And like I said, just on top of that, knowing that someone always has your back. It's a lot different than the Fixers are sitting there and they want to yell Fixers rule, or the Savages. I mean, Savages can chase gold because they want something shiny, but when they're looking across the ring, it's how much are they willing to sacrifice for that shiny thing that we want.
Oh, yeah.
That's not what we're doing. I'm sitting there on the apron looking at AJ getting punched while he's down, and I need to get in that fight. I need to sit there. Honestly, in that moment, these are always going to be the most important thing except for family. So when he's in there and he's in a fight, I need to get in that fight. The Savages want to get in and they want to win something shiny. That's fine. The Spectaculars, I don't know, they probably think it's a cummerbund to go with their bow ties, but they don't have anything like we have as far as family, watching your back, always being there, knowing that you can count on them. That's why we wound up winning the U.S. Tag Championships.
What's a pet peeve about AJ that you just don't understand?
Let's see. I don't know. He's got a sweet mullet, so I can't go with that. No, I would say it started out almost as a pet peeve, and then it wound up working for us to where he's able to simplify things down. So I will make even our tag team movements, everything, I'll make them real intricate and convoluted. And then AJ will come by and he'll say, well, why don't we just do this? And they wind up down at the same time, and then we can, do the next move that we need to get to the win. And at first it would infuriate me because I'm like, man, I just came up with this thing 15 minutes of my day and blah. And then I realized I'm like, oh, no. He's actually right. That gets us there a lot faster, a lot easier. Huh. And I think same thing with him. He would probably say he gets annoyed at how I'll convolute and overcomplicate things, but sometimes you need that because while the simplicity works, sometimes you need that extravagance, and you need to make it a little more intricate so that way the other tag team doesn't know what you're doing. That way people are surprised, things like that. So I think it wound up complementing each other, even though at the beginning I know it irritated both of us. I know that for sure.
I could agree with that because when we had AJ on, he was like, he thinks too much.
What? Oh, he's talking garbage about me. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think too much. He thinks the bare minimum. That's us in a nutshell.
The overthinker and the not thinking enough.
Nah, we meet in the middle, and it winds up being perfect. So it's definitely helped us.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask next, because it did seem like, when you first came together, it was maybe drawn to, let's throw these guys together, see what happens, and then you guys kind of made it work, and the crowd kind of picked up on that. Is that kind of how you saw it at how it went?
Absolutely. And as far as, I mean, there's always a lot of competition with family and, I mean, practically being siblings. I don't know how many cousins you have, even if they're 10 years apart, if it's anywhere near the same age, there's a lot of that almost sibling rivalry. But then, so we actually, like I said, didn't have the idea to team together. It was Billy. He's the one who saw it. I think he saw a lot of those things that I pointed out, the similar drive, some mannerisms, the gentleman thing. I think someone wound up saying, because I hold doors open for people. It's yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and I always try and be a decent human being in life and just be polite in general. So I think he saw a lot of those similarities. And Billy's the one who put us together. And at first, I wondered the same thing, if it was just, hey, we like both these guys, we're going to throw them together and see what happens. And then they announced at NWA 74, the Battle Royal for the U.S. Tag Team Championships. And that's when it kind of clicked. It wasn't just throwing us together because there was nothing to do with us. Billy thinks a lot of steps ahead, and I've realized that more and more over time. So I have no doubt now, when he saw in June, he saw something and he liked it, and he knew AJ, he already liked what AJ was doing. I think he saw those being able to click together, and I don't think we were thrown together as a throwaway project. I think that's something, and he's talked to us over time, I think that's something that he was very invested in, that he saw the potential in it, and he was right. I think we've made him very happy with that decision. Like, we always work and progress. And I mean, of course, we're going to have that chemistry. So I think a lot of it was planned out even more than we realized.
Billy Corgan thinking 5 steps ahead of everybody.
Yep. Yep. I'm always surprised when I think I know he's a few steps ahead. He's a few more ahead than that. So it's impressive.
Now, getting off of the subject of NWA, you're also the current RCW International Championship champion. You held it 3 times, and I believe this current run is over 800 days, or around 800 days.
No, so combined, it's over 800. I've lost the title, which is a lot of shenanigans involved. The last time, everyone thinks he's a good kid named David Kidd in San Antonio. He threw powder in my eyes, and it took, I think, 3 different people to pin me. Before that, it was actually on Impact Plus in Dallas, or sorry, it was Impact in San Antonio was when I lost it to Luigi Primo, who you might know. He likes to throw around pizza. Yeah. So I lost it on Impact in San Antonio, and then the next night on Impact Plus in Dallas at Texas Live, I actually regained the title. So he couldn't even defend it for 24 hours. And then with David Kidd, he won it, he didn't defend it, and then the very next time that I had a shot at the championship, it was his first title defense, and I won it back. So I consider those 2 small flukes during my RCW International Championship reign. But yes, I'm the most dominant champion in RCW history, with 3 title runs, almost 3 years, and it's over 800 days. So they have the group that I'm with. There's Casey Blackrose and Brendan Bice. They're the RCW Tag Team Champions. And then Mysterious Q, who's all over the country as well. He's the RCW champion. So we have a really strong group there, and all strong champions. Although I'm the face of the company and the most dominant champion in history. All of those things.
What is it kind of mean to you that RCW, believed in you and, gave you that championship for as long as they have and did? Obviously small blemishes aside.
Yeah, I mean, that's always huge. And I think it's the same as NWA, where I take that championship, I have that championship with me whenever I go anywhere. When I was at WrestleCade, I had that championship with me. When I travel anywhere in the country, I have the RCW International Championship with me. So when I'm a champion for a company, I carry that banner around the country. Even before I was with NWA, that's my thing. Is I travel around the country, and I show people with RCW. Hey, if you come to San Antonio, if you look on Title Match Network, if you look up anything for RCW, this is the level that you can expect to see. Uh, I always appreciate, they've put me up against great people. I mean, I've wrestled with Colt Cabana. There's just tons of people. Khan, I had a match for the RCW International Championship. He wasn't able to take it away from me either. But the Ring of Honor six-man tag team champion Khan, he wrestles there as well. So anytime that you see something, that's the level that you can expect for that show to be at. I travel around the country and I show them. Same thing with NWA. I travel around the country. I say, hey, this is the level that you can expect to see. You're going to hear the name of that promotion a lot. You're going to look it up, and you're going to see what that show is about. When I step in there, like I said, in Utah, Devotion Championship Wrestling is an incredible show. There were extremely important people there from the world of wrestling. And we had separate things both days that I was there, where I got a lot of feedback, and I feel very confident going anywhere in the country especially, but anywhere in the world, and I know the level that I perform at. So I think that's why RCW has had that championship on me for so long, because I can wrestle with any of their guys who are coming from a local area to see if they're going to be good enough to step up to that next level. If he brings people that have national contracts, I've always said that, because he brings a lot of people into that show. And I've always said you can bring in entertainers, you can bring in someone who makes an impact, you can bring in anyone that wants to be an elite, any national superstar. You can put them in the ring with me, and RCW is my home. I will always be better than them at my home. Like, no one can stand in that ring with me. So I think that's why they do it. They can bring anyone in, and I'll be able to perform at that level. I can go around the country and wave the RCW banner, and they'll always be proud with what I've done. So I think that bleeds over into other promotions, and they feel comfortable when they put me in those championship matches. They know that I'm then going to not only perform and win, I'm going to travel around with those championships and really wave that banner of, hey, this is where quality wrestling is around the country. Hey, this is where you can see the best fights. So I think that's a big part of having me as a champion.
Now, a lot of wrestlers, if they hold two titles at the same time, they'll only wear one of them when they're in that specific promotion. And people might not know that they have two other titles from two different promotions, unless they follow them or whatnot. Where, and now, you're wearing, two different championships, two different companies. Obviously, you're going and you're representing those companies. Where does that work discipline come from? That, obviously, they're putting these titles, I have to represent them. Where does that work discipline come from in putting that responsibility on yourself?
I think that's just all personal. I mean, those are going to be things. Some people view it differently. To me, it's just, I mean, it goes back to what we talk about with the country gentleman. A lot of it is family for us, and it's how I was raised. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to give it my all. this is what I do for a living. I'm a professional wrestler. When people ask me at the gym, everyone at the gym knows what I do, everyone at the tanning bed, the grocery store, all this stuff, and it's not because I walk around and say it to them. It's just in conversation when they're like, hey, what do you do? I'm a pro wrestler. That is my life's work. So at the end of the day, that's going to be a big thing that AJ and we're going to establish is, as far as the NWA US Tag Team Championships, we're not going to be people who just hold them. We're going to be people who they talk about when they look in history and say, hey, who were some of the greatest NWA Tag Team Champions? And the Country Gentlemen are going to be part of that name. Me traveling around and always representing companies as a champion, as far as always putting in that hard work, is always, as far as always traveling and showing people what that level of wrestling is. And AJ and I do it now, showing people what tag team wrestling is. And that's all personal pride. That's just responsibility that we put on ourselves. No one else is doing it. You see with teams in any company, they can get championships and they can sit around and not do anything. We don't want to do that. We want to always be spoken about in those conversations. Hey, who are the best tag teams in the country? Hey, who are the best tag teams in history? And we have the opportunity to do that now. So as far as us, this is our life's work. This is what both of us do for a living. And so we just have to push even harder. We've been given that opportunity. We won the tag team championships. We're the NWA US Tag Team Champions. And now we get to write what that means. These belts haven't existed for a little bit. There was a gap in there. So now we get to actually take those and we get to go around the country and say, hey, this is what that means. We get to show people this is the experience when the NWA sends their U.S. Tag Team Champions to your city, to your state, to your town. This is exactly what that means, and we take pride in that. We take pride in writing what that means now.
All right. I love that. Taking pride in your work.
Yeah.
All right. Now, not too long ago, you were backstage at Raw. What was that moment like, considering you've had a couple memorable moments on Raw already?
So yeah, Raw and even SmackDown have always been fun. It was nice. Sal the Pal wound up being at the same Raw that I was at. It's always an incredible experience. Everyone there is always extremely nice. I have a lot of friends who work there that either I've worked with in the past or people I've just seen over time. And it's always a good experience. There was a period before COVID where I was there pretty much every month. And so that it's always just nice going there. But as far as I'm guessing the moments that you're talking about are especially with Braun Strowman, where I was security, and a fun fact as well. I was able to walk out as security the opening segment of Raw with, he's actually my favorite professional wrestler, period, throughout history. I was just watching a video of his match with Shawn Michaels, but Kurt Angle is by far my favorite pro wrestler in history. Yeah, love him. And so got to walk out with him. I was the first person to walk out of the curtain with him on the opening segment of Raw. And then that quickly went downhill when Braun Strowman threw me. And people have a misconception. But when Braun Strowman throws you, you're going wherever he sends you. And you can ask, Barrett Brown was there that day working security. He sends you wherever he feels like sending you. So there was absolutely nothing that I could do in that moment. I was back on my heels already, and he picked me up and launched me. So that was an interesting experience. But yeah, as far as being at Raw, a lot of the people there, like I said, some of the people that I talked to last month in Utah, the reason why I was out there, yeah, it's just always a great experience, and it's a fun company to do anything with and talk to. Everyone has always been extremely kind to me there and given me a lot of opportunities. So.
You mentioned, Kurt Angle's your favorite wrestler. Were you able to talk to him before or after the segment?
Yes. So he had so much going on that day. So there was really no feedback as far as anything, but just talking to him. I went up and said hi. He said hi. Talked for a second, nothing really in depth, but he had a million segments. I think Braun Strowman tipped over a production truck during that episode. And I think threw Michael Cole off the stage, all in that same episode. So Kurt had a lot going on that day. But some of the other guys in Houston, I trained at Booker T's school, so Booker T was nice enough. He saw me before we went out in Gorilla. He just pulled me to the side and said, "Hey, and good to see me," and everything. So yeah, there's, like I said, a lot of people in WWE, and everyone's always very kind there. It's a good company as far as no matter where you feel you are, everyone's important when you walk in the door. So that's always nice.
Now, that was, a crazy moment. You were also in a segment with CM Punk.
Yes. So that was actually completely unexpected. We were there watching just as fans, and for some reason, he decided to come over. It was after, I believe, the Shield had just debuted, and everyone assumed that the Shield was working for CM Punk and Paul Heyman. And he was talking in the ring, and we're sitting there watching, and it was my old tag partner, Marvelous Michael Stevens, from out in Georgia. We had teamed for probably 8-9 years. So we just went to watch Raw, and he walks down and he starts calling my old tag team partner Four Eyes and saying, "Hey, you saw the video. Can you prove that they were with me or I had anything to do with it?" Which is crazy because we were doing an anti-bullying campaign in Georgia at one of the promotions, and Dr. Johnny Gayton saw this happen on Raw because he's a huge wrestling fan. He watches Raw all the time, and we worked for his wrestling promotion. That's actually where I first met Sal and Bill Behrens and all these people. And he calls up Michael Stevens, and he talks to him about it, and he decides to bring him in. They make him an entire face of the anti-bullying campaign, and he wound up giving him free LASIK surgery because CM Punk bullied him on Raw and called him Four Eyes in front of everyone when we're in the middle of this anti-bullying campaign. So it wound up working out really well because, yeah, we had no idea that was going to happen. Punk just came over and started berating him, which Paul Heyman was his manager, and there was video of Paul Heyman speaking to the Shield. So I think that pretty well, but that was a whole different period of time. Yeah, that was pretty crazy as well.
That's crazy. I thought that was, planned, but no,
No.
That's so
CM Punk is just a jerk. No, but no, he just came over just out of the blue and saw a guy with glasses and started saying that, which that'll never happen again because Michael Stevens got LASIK surgery from Dr. Johnny Gayton at Warner Robins, Georgia, Eyesight Associates.
That's crazy.
Huh. Now he never has to worry about being bullied again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's time for that segment once again. Anthony Andrews' bizarre adventure. Your pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads and weird, crazy, bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Absolutely. And it ties in to everything we've been talking about today. I'm sure I'll go over this at some point in the future, but the NWA, we had an amazing Power Live, the first one. We won the NWA U.S. Tag Team Championships, and this story hasn't been told anywhere either. I came back to Fort Worth, and what a lot of people don't know is during that time there was a freeze in Fort Worth, and Texas is not very well set up for cold weather. So I get back, I'm driving in a rental car. I get all the way back to the town that I live in, going all along. There's ice and cars all over the side of the interstate, and it's kind of crazy. But I get all the way back, and I turn onto the second to last road that I need to get home, and I go up the smallest hill to a railroad track, and it is a tiny, tiny hill. And I feel my car start sliding to the side, and it gently bumps where the crossing arm, the railroad crossing arm, comes down. It doesn't hit the arm, but the hill that's mounted into it bumps that, and I slide back into a hill. And I'm like, or a ditch, sorry. I'm like, oh no, I can get out of this because I've gotten out of mud and everything else. There's no damage on the car, and I start to rock back, rock forward, rock back, and rock forward. And I'm almost out of the hill, and it slides to the side and gets stuck in ice and mud. I'm like, oh, this is it. Yeah, this won't work. I can't get out of that. And there's one person nearby that I don't want to call because then they could possibly get stuck out on the road. I call for roadside assistance, and they let me know that no one is getting vehicles out right now because the conditions are too severe and their tow trucks have been getting stuck. I look on the GPS, and I'm 2 miles away from where I'm going. So I'm like, great. Get out of the car. Luckily, I had my NWA hoodie. And I put that on over the hoodie I already had on, zip it up, and I had my NWA beanie. So I'm all NWA'd out, and I go in the trunk, and I get the brand new NWA United States Tag Team Championships, because I know if somebody comes by and breaks into the car, or if it's there too long and it winds up getting towed, I am not going to be the one who lost the brand new, long-awaited NWA US Tag Team Championships. So I put it on under my jacket, and I hike it up around my upper stomach so people that might be out. I had seen one car go by, or one four-wheel drive truck go by. So like, that way nobody will see something gold and shiny sticking out from under my jacket. I pull all my hoodies up, I put my headphones in, and I just... Oh, and I was in tennis shoes, but luckily I had my cowboy boots, which had slightly more grip from doing the Knoxville show. And I put those on, and I start shuffle stepping. Because if I take a full step, I immediately start slipping. And I get up the little railroad track hill, and I slide down on the side of my leg to the bottom of the hill. And I go about 1.5 miles, just scooting along, shuffle step, and I see a truck go by, and all of a sudden, my feet shoot out from under me, and my phone, I just remember I had my light on my phone turned on, and I just see the light spinning, and I can't figure out where my phone is, and I hit my back, and I look up, and then my phone lands right beside my head. And I'm like, all right. I pull myself up by a tree, and then that truck that had just passed by turns around and comes up, and he's like, hey, you need help getting anywhere? And I was like, yes. So his truck starts sliding, we have to figure out like how to get me into the truck because his 4-wheel drive truck is trying to slide off the road too. Finally get in the truck. He takes me the last maybe half mile. And the first thing I do is take off the NWA belt, check, there's no scratches on it, set it down, go in the bedroom, and passed out for about 12 hours. So that was the fun journey home for the brand new NWA US Tag Team Championship.
That is a great story.
I appreciate that. I can laugh at it now. That night,
it wasn't too
it
fun
was
at the time.
the shuffle steps. I was so sore just from trying not to take a full step and not fall at the same time. Yeah, it's a good story now after the fact.
Alright, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you were in the same car you rode with Lita and Effie?
No, I wish I had been in that car. I actually, you can't see it on the audio podcast, but I had my Effie bust that is his limited time statue over here on the side, right beside my championship. So I always keep that and video game cartridge from Big Game Leroy are my fun pieces of. I like when I see interesting and different wrestling merchandise. That's why I try and make mine different. I do like glass etched mugs and just try and make different stuff because I like when I see it. But no, I wasn't in that vehicle, although I'm sure that would have been a fun story too.
Yeah, I could have swore I heard something on your Twitter that indicated that, but alright. Sometimes
Maybe something looked like it, or it may have been a different Anthony. That may have been.
Well, I spent way too much time on that Twitter if it wasn't you.
No, you're good. Oh, I actually know what you're talking about. Sorry. There was I believe it was a podcast by Renee, is it Paquette? Where she was out. Right, she was out for maternity leave. Lita was covering her podcast, and Effie was the guest. And I remember specifically, that's crazy. I don't know how I remember this one, but it was a good podcast. They kept me awake the entire time because I think if it had been someone boring, I would have definitely fallen asleep. So I think I alluded to they kept me either awake or alive or something, or made the drive more enjoyable. Okay. So I could see how that was probably poorly stated, but no. Anytime that they want riding partners for Lita and Effie, I'm in. I don't care where they're going. That would be a fun drive.
Okay. But you were a part of Kaiju Big Battle, no?
Yes, that was a fun one because so Trevin Adams is with WWN, and so they are who had evolved. That's where I first met Gabe Sapolsky, who has been great every time that I've spoken with him. Trevin has been huge over the years. That was actually the first time I wrestled in Chicago. So we'll be going back there for NWA 312. But the first time I wrestled in Chicago, I went up and talked to Trevin, and they were doing Kaiju Big Battle. And it's just such a neat concept to me. It's so fun. I think wrestling at its core is fun. There's so many different things, and it can get so heated and so intense. And that's a huge part of it. But also it just being fun and entertaining. And Kaiju Big Battle, I can sit there and watch, and it's just interesting. And it takes something different to do it, because I'm wrestling as this huge chicken, and I have this crazy mask that you can barely see out of. And that's when you realize some of the people that you don't know are under the mask, and I don't know their names or anything like that, but you realize how incredible of workers and wrestlers they are, because they're doing all of this stuff and you just they can't see, and they have bodysuits on, and they have all of this stuff, and everyone's just out there creating this experience for fans and working so hard. That's actually the first time that I ever met Sky Blue. Before she was in AEW, she had this awesome character where we're all in the ring and she came down with a hammer, and it was incredible. And the crowd, there are certain people you can see their interaction early on, and the way that people liked her and gravitated toward her as far as fans. It was just interesting to see. And then seeing her years later pop up on AEW, and you're like, oh, okay, that's why. She had all that charisma years ago before anyone knew who she was. And I think that's one of the things that WWN and Trevin and all these guys are really good at, is they can see people early on. They see there's something there, and they give them all this complexity, because when you wrestle for Kaiju Big Battle, you learn different things that you didn't know, because I would step on this building in the middle of the Kaiju Big Battle ring, and all the fans hated me because I stepped on this. So you have to be careful of what you're doing. You don't want to step on the buildings. You learn to wrestle when you can't see. Exactly. And all of this stuff, and it's so neat and so interesting to me. And I feel like there's a space for so many things in wrestling, and Kaiju just opens up this entire other space. I've seen they're starting to run again, which makes me happy. I know a lot of the WWN brands, like ACW, I believe, is running again. Just some of their brands have started back up already. And Trevin, like I said, has always been a huge help for me over the years, giving me a lot of feedback and giving me a place to perform. And I just love seeing that those are running again and running frequently, because if you go to Kaiju Big Battle, you're going to have a fun experience. That's actually things like WPW, so Wrestling Pro Wrestling, that Brian Kendrick runs out in California. That's one of the ones that I'm doing during WrestleMania week. And they have a lot of crazy characters that I was able to see. I don't even think originally there. I think it was at Hood Slam in Oakland, California. Dark Sheik. Yeah, Dark Sheik runs that promotion. And I met her a few years before I had the chance to work there. And she's incredible on her own. And then the show that she puts on, it's just amazing. And a lot of those wrestlers and those characters from Wrestling Pro Wrestling would come up, like Serial Man and all of these things. Chupacabra, all of these people are incredible. And it's neat, too, because you get to see them over the years in different places. I've seen the Super Beast, who I first met up in Sacramento, Oakland area, I believe, just had his first match for NWA at the last set of tapings. I could be wrong. But just different things and getting to see different people. Anthony Rivera, I just saw when I was in Utah. And those are people that I see from up there. So you'll see all this crazy wrestling, and you'll be like, I don't know how that would fit into more traditional wrestling, but it just gives people more facets and more layers to when you put them in a traditional wrestling situation, they have more tools in their tool belt. It all works together, and it's all very neat and interesting to me. And I've enjoyed seeing all of those shows, any of those that I get to be a part of. It's a very interesting experience, and I always love it.
All right. Now, you were actually featured on the news one time.
Yes. So down in that one was in Houston. I've been lucky to be on there a few times. That one was in Houston, and it was a festival that was coming to the area. They just wanted to delve into my personal life a little bit. At that point, I was actually working as a insurance adjuster. I did that as well as working on the collision shop side for a lot of years, over a decade. So that was fun, made a lot of interesting friends that I still keep in contact with down in Houston. A lot of those have either switched careers. One of them's a esthetician, and one has their own body shop, and all of these things. You meet a lot of interesting people, and they just wanted to see kind of both sides of it. And as far as things that you may not expect, as far as personal life, I'm very lucky that I've done a lot of things. In college, I was president of the Women's Studies Association at my college. That's one of the things that I'm extremely proud of. It's actually the first semester that I was elected was when I got my equality tattoo, because it's extremely important to me. And anyone that knows me in my personal life knows that. They know how important equality is to me, and I always wanted to be on the forefront of who I am. I always want people, as soon as they see me, they know that's important. So that was a very big part of my life, a very big accomplishment for me. So I want something to celebrate and represent that.
So the tattoo on your arm, that's an equal sign.
Yes, that's for equality. I think everyone has with me and should have the chance to show who they are, regardless of anything else. If you show me who you are and you're a good person, awesome. If you show me that you're not, you should have every right to show me either way. To me, that's the importance of equality. Everyone should have the same equal footing. And I've met people from all backgrounds, from all beliefs, orientations, everything, that are extremely good people. And I've met people from so many backgrounds that are not great people. I would even say bad people. So I just think you should have the opportunity to show that and show who you are inside. And then you can base your decision on a person based on who they are as an individual. Anything preconceived, I don't have time for that. And most people, when I really get into it and bore down to that, there's more of an understanding than a divide. So yeah, I'm a huge believer in equality, and I'll never hide or back away from that.
And I believe the news station that did the segment on you was KPRC.
I believe so. Like I said, there were actually a couple of them, but I believe the one, I think I know the video that you're talking about. I believe that one was KPRC. Yes.
All right. One match that I found interesting was you wrestled wrestling legend Brutal Bob Evans and Ken Music. What was that experience like? Because we love Brutal Bob on the show.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I love Brutal Bob. I actually credit him completely with why I started traveling. So everyone wants to travel. Everybody thinks about all this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, once I become a big pro wrestler, I'll get to travel all over." He's one of the ones who got me to understand early on, go out and travel. I wish I had learned that or met him sooner, because when I started, there wasn't a lot of focus on traveling, and I don't understand why. But it was 2006 in Georgia. It was, hey, you do your stuff, you stay here, you stay close to home, you wrestle for your home promotion. And we traveled around Georgia, Alabama, especially a few times in Florida and South Carolina. But then once I moved out to Texas, I didn't have my old tag team partner. He started traveling more. And at the same time, I started traveling more. And I just reached out to Bob and I was like, hey, what are the pointers and tips? And he gave me some of that, but his main thing was, hey, people don't know who you are yet. Start traveling. And the impressive thing to me with that was when I started doing that, when I bet on myself and I started making all of those trips, there was never a time, even still, that it didn't pay off for me. So I know I'm good. I know my ability. Like I said, I can be the best in my backyard all day. I can sit there and be the best person in Fort Worth or back then in Houston, in my hometown, and no one could ever hear about me. But if I go and I show all of these other people at other levels, and I've talked to people at the highest level, and there's always positive feedback, and it's benefited me in some way, even if it wasn't the one that I went to have the match or the seminar or the tryout for. I've gotten bookings that I wouldn't have had because of those. It's always paid off in some way. So the match with Bob was really fun because it wound up being for Rocky Mountain Pro in Denver, Colorado. And so I went up, I had worked there before, and they were coming in to have a seminar. And luckily, we just got paired together. And so there was a very bad point at the beginning of the match where luckily it wasn't me, but Tim Hughes. So I'm not the one who did it to him, but we talked about it recently. He got his eardrum busted right at the beginning of the match. Yeah. So he's sitting there in pain trying to get through this match. I wind up getting in, and we're going through everything, working. And I mean, he's definitely tough Tim Hughes because he got through the entire match. But man, it was bad. And then there was something a little bit later in the match where he got nailed again. And just we kept going. We got through all of it. But being in there with Bob, it was interesting because you got to see how easy things are and how things flow in a certain way when you're working with certain people. And I had seen that before, but that's kind of one of those things. When someone is good, you can have a good, really easy match, and everything just kind of comes together. As long as everyone in the match is on the same page, you can get through everything. All the fans are having fun. Everyone's entertained. And it was just kind of nice getting to finally have that match in a different state. He's not from Colorado. I'm not from Colorado. But getting that advice and learning to travel from him, and then having that match in a state that neither of us were from, and it was a televised match, that was a fun kind of checkpoint for us. Like, hey, you taught me how to travel and how to get onto these shows in different states. Now I get to have a match with you on TV in one of those other states. It was definitely a cool moment.
It's kind of like a mini full circle moment to some degree.
Exactly. There need to be kind of waypoints and stepping stones as you go through your career where it doesn't have to be I start and my goal is a contract. That should, I mean, definitely be in your mind, but as far as setting those reachable goals in between, hey, I want to travel more. And Bob is very good about that. He does the Wrestle Life is one of his, I believe it's a subscription plan, but it's just a good master class. When I looked through everything and I signed up for it, it was just, to me, like a master class in certain aspects of wrestling that don't get talked about a lot. Sorry, that aren't talked about a lot. And so you need those in-betweens of like, hey, I want to do a lot of different states. So he helped me realize to set a goal. I said I wanted to do 12 states in a year. And that year that I said that, I did 13. So just kind of setting those goals for yourself so you don't think, hey, I haven't gotten a contract with a major company that I said I wanted, so I must be a failure. No, there's going to be in-between steps that you need to hit. So set those as goals, acknowledge it, and be happy. Like, celebrate. Hey, I hit 13 states. My thing for this year is I want to do 3 separate countries. I've already got the U.S. out of the way. NWA, we're not going to be at that one, but I'll be supporting. NWA is in Mexico, and then later in the year, they're doing New Zealand. So there are a lot of different countries, a lot of different opportunities, and definitely having the NWA U.S. Tag Team Championships helps open a lot of those doors for us as well.
Oh yeah, not maybe people don't realize it's not I'm going to training. I finished training. Now I'm going to get signed by WWE. Ooh.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
I think it's time for the colossal question. I mean, everything you've done so far has been incredible, so incredible that they decided to make a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first three songs on the Anthony Andrews movie soundtrack up to this point?
I mean, I'm trying to think of how they would fit in. I'm pretty sure they're all gonna be Johnny Cash. I'm gonna be honest. That's just trying to think of which ones though. There are so many good songs. Yeah, I love Johnny Cash. Now I'm trying to think of, but my favorites of his don't really emulate my life. I love Cocaine Blues, Hung My Head. I'm trying to think. Jeez, I can't think of how to make them fit together. But yeah, they'd probably all three be Johnny Cash.
Just put the Johnny Cash soundtrack.
Exactly. So he has a box set that's God Love Murder, and it's a 3-disc set. And the first one is all hymns. It's songs about God. The second one are love. He has, I think, Ring of Fire might be on that one. Of course, not originally. They're just his collections. And then the third one is murder, and they're all just outlaw country songs about murder. And I'm not gonna lie, that's probably my favorite of the three discs. But especially if you have a preconceived notion about Johnny Cash and you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't like Folsom Prison Blues, or I don't like which, how do you not like Folsom Prison Blues? But I don't like Ring of Fire. Listen to either God Love Murder or any of his American Recordings song. Can I tell you a cool random Johnny Cash story? Because it's not about me. But he thought he was washed up. He thought he was done. And you know Rick Rubin? He's the producer for Beastie Boys, yeah, Jay-Z, all this stuff. He came to him and he was like, no, you're not done. You haven't made all the music that you have to make. And so he got him back in the studio, and he starts making the most amazing music. Listen to American Recordings. I know at least 5 of them. There may have been 6 because he held on to one after Johnny Cash had passed. And I believe it's Columbia that he's with. I'm probably wrong, and now I'm going to get tweets about how I'm not a real Johnny Cash fan. But Rick Rubin had his contract negotiation coming up. They weren't budging on anything, and he went ahead and let them know. He's like, hey, just so you know, I have the master tape of the last album that Johnny Cash recorded. So if you want it released under your label, we probably need to get through this negotiation. That's amazing, man. Like, he made so much more incredible music after he thought he was washed up. He thought the Nashville country music scene was done with him. All this stuff. He's just incredible. I love Johnny Cash. I love his story. I love outlaw country. I don't even like regular country that much, but outlaw country with Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, all these people, Chris Christopherson, they're just amazing. And to me, it's just so representative of so many people and the struggles that they go through, but you just listen to it and they tell stories. It's amazing to me.
Now that we got the soundtrack down, it's time for casting. Who plays Anthony?
Oof. I mean, I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio is out of the reason. But no, trying to think. Oh, if I just got to pick anyone, it's Chris Hemsworth, 100%. People may argue with that. He'd have to be a really out of shape Chris Hemsworth at first. Maybe the Thor dad bod one. And then he would get back to being the Chris Hemsworth that we all know and love. But that would be my pick.
All right. And who would be 3 people in your movie, and who would play them?
Oof. So probably gonna get a little teary-eyed here, but my dad. So that would be the first and most important part of this story. I don't know who could play him because, my dad's even still a superhero to me. So that would be a tough one. I'm trying to think of anyone that's still alive even that would be able to play that role. It sounds weird, but like I don't know how much you saw Johnny Cash actually act, but I always enjoyed it. And even in his music videos, like Hurt, he was such a very strong presence that something like that. So I'm not even sure. Now I'm going to be thinking about that a lot. But who could play him on the opposite side though? My dad was extremely fun. So I don't know, maybe even someone like a John Goodman, because right, I love John Goodman, but if you've seen him in West Wing, he can be extremely serious, and then he can be very caring. He can be very fun. There's the episode of Roseanne where he finds out someone is, what's her name? Is it Becky, his sister-in-law? No, it's not Becky. But anyway, someone that she's dating hit, and he goes over, you just see him leave the scene quietly. He doesn't say anything. And he comes back in with bloody knuckles, and he's trying to get ice out of the freezer so no one hears him. And I'm like, that's perfect. He can be a comedy guy one time, and then he's extremely caring and protective of his family the next. So probably doing good. And would you ask for 3 people?
Yeah. I feel like AJ has to be one of them, right?
AJ is absolutely going to be one of them. But who would play AJ? Who would either you cast as AJ, or who did AJ? I want to hear who AJ cast for himself. Do you
Silas,
remember?
yeah.
Who was it?
Silas.
Oh, yep. I'm going to stick with Silas. Awesome. Yep, Silas is going to play AJ in both of our movies. It'll be a crossover. Man, that is fantastic. Can we just stick with that?
Yes,
I don't know who to pick
absolutely.
for a third, but Silas is AJ. Is what I want. Now I'm just picturing the scenes with Silas and John Goodman, and I would buy every ticket to see that movie now. Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna stick with those. I'm gonna bow out who the third choice would be, because I just want to see a buddy cop movie with Silas and John Goodman.
Alright, well, I mean, this is sounding like a fantastic movie already. Chris Hemsworth, John Goodman, Silas.
And then the occasional pop in from Chrissy James, just presenting things in magic. I don't know where that fits in the movie, but for some reason, I feel like she should just randomly pop in and present things. Awesome.
Shout out to Christy. I haven't talked to her for quite some time.
Yeah, she's always a fun one to talk to. She's very interesting, and from here in the Texas wrestling scene as well. Would always see her all over Austin, Houston every once in a while, San Antonio, out at RCW. She was a champion in San Antonio for a long, long time as well. So she's, definitely very impressive and always fun to talk to as well.
All right. Now on to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I literally just had it yesterday. You can tell Luigi Primo that I said that, because I will gladly I don't think anyone knows his preference. He's very tight-lipped about it, but I feel like he gets a little angry sometimes. I always get, if it's not just cheese pizza, which is always a standard go-to, it's going to be extra cheese, spicy Italian sausage, and pineapple. That's generally my go-to.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
Ooh. I mean, Squirtle's always a good one. I think people underestimate, so I'll go with that.
Alright, now we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Thug? THUG.
I do not.
T
I
is for terrible.
feel like,
H is for hell. U is for ugly. And G is for jail. Because a Doug can't spell.
wow. I do know there was a match long, long ago with Sal the Pal. It wasn't me in this match, but you'll have to ask him for the exact story. But I'm trying to remember who he was in the match with. And just out of nowhere, he just yells U, G, L, Y. And as the crowd is thoroughly confused, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly. And then everyone joined in. So whenever you have Sal on, you'll have to ask him about that story. And also, I'm just going to leave you with this teaser and give you absolutely none of the story. Is when you have Sal on, you need to ask him about Frankie the bird. Just ask him about Frankie. And make sure you ask him, because I'm going to listen and make sure, because I love hearing that story. So ask him about Frankie, and he will tell you one of the best stories you've ever heard in your life.
Frankie the board as in Coco B. Wells board?
Absolutely.
Okay then.
Absolutely. And that is Sal's story. That involves him and Coco Beware.
Okay.
So
put it in the notes. Get Sal on it immediately.
Yep. Yep. That would be my next goal if I were you, because that story is worth it.
Okay then. Weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview. Hopefully, would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual Rock.
It was breaking up a little bit. Would I consider wrestling a Rock?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, absolutely I would. It seems like either way I can't lose, because let's say I do no damage to it and I wind up getting beaten, assuming that it's a large rock. I feel like that's expected. But what if I beat it? What if I split that rock in half and I give hope to everyone all over the country that no matter how hard things are, you can beat them? That sounds like a great story to me.
Well, if you did, you would become world champion. And something that, just for context, Psycho Mike couldn't do, because he actually wrestled a Rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. An Iron Man match that lasted for 2 weeks.
Oh, jeez. I had no idea.
Yes. And,
we'll have to find out more about this match.
I could send it to you if you want to.
Definitely.
Okay, then I won't spoil the ending for you.
Okay. Awesome.
Right.
Wait, is the full runtime 2 weeks? Is that?
Well, there's a kind of the match starts on episode 1, season 2, and ends on episode 3, season 2.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But I usually just send the first episode. But there's a lot to it.
All right. I'm excited. I'm invested in this now. I have to know.
All right. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I mean, definitely. So my thing is the NWA. That's why I'm so happy with when I started with the NWA, because it's clearly growing. You can see the development and the growth. And there are a lot of things backstage. There's a huge crew. There's a lot of our cameramen, the production, music. There are people who just have such an investment in it. I'm sure they don't like their names being said, but Sherry, Billy, all of these people that you don't see in front of the camera that do so much work, down to our merchandise people with Tony and Chelsea, Ashley, all of these people. I'm just going through lists in my head here. Kara, all these people who do makeup and hair and all of these different things, to where there's such a push right now that you see it right at the cusp of that next level. I'm happy with NWA right where it is now. If that's where I came in and that's where the company was, but you can tell no one is happy with that. We're all pushing. That's why AJ and I travel around the country talking about NWA so much. That's why they're pushing on their end, and everyone has such a similar focus to where in 5 years, I plan to be with NWA and looking back and seeing all of the growth, looking at our TV deals that we have in place at that point, looking at how our pay-per-view numbers have grown, looking at how the following has grown, everything like that. Every day, that's what's fun to me too, is being here in Dallas, Fort Worth area. People ask me what I do. When I say pro wrestler, they ask who I work for. I say NWA. Oh, I know NWA. I used to go see that when I was a kid. I used to go. And so hearing all of those stories, there's this built-in fan base that we're capitalizing on again. And so everyone's getting reinvested in a product that they remember from their childhood. And then we're introducing new fans, and just with TV, pay-per-views, everything, it's growing so much. And hearing about the just talking to Billy for, 10, 15 minutes and hearing his view, his ideas for the future and everything like that, I'm just excited to see where that is in 5 years, and I fully plan on being a part of that.
Right. And what's a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what Anthony Andrews is all about?
Ooh, I would say, let's see, really anything in NWA I'm extremely proud of. And then I would just say any of the tag matches with AJ and I. You can see our first, let's see, yeah, it was last weekend. You could see our first U.S. Tag Team Championship defense against the Spectaculars, or watching Power Live from Knoxville. Either of those show exactly who we are and what we do.
And you don't even have to go looking through the archives of NWA. I'll put a link to both of the episodes in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox, for anybody that hasn't seen them, wants to revisit them after this interview.
Perfect.
And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is our speed.
Gotcha.
This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Kurt Angle. That's easy for me.
Worst wrestler.
Ooh, that's there are a few that pop into my mind, but I'm thinking of a recent episode of a television show about a wrestler where he just changed the name of who he was speaking about completely. So I think it's best to leave those people out of history. If you have that bad of an experience with someone, I'd rather their name never be uttered again, which I think is what some of those people deserve.
So you're saying Shawn Michaels then?
No, I did not say him. Oh, I was talking about people that I've personally wrestled. If you're saying worst wrestler,
okay,
there are people way
what,
further down than.
I know what. So you're talking about the Young Rock episode with
Exactly. Which I found it interesting, and I understand where he's coming from. Why would you give? I don't know what their beef was. I understand if they have things, or maybe just not wanting to talk about someone who is known as one of the best wrestlers in the world in a negative light. Like, how does that help anyone being negative? I think that may have been more of why he did it than being negative toward that person. So his thing may have been like, hey, everyone's going to disagree with my opinion in this one scenario. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that character show up and it had the person's actual name when he's talking about something positive, right? But to me, I understand if you have a negative experience, why I think this with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all this stuff all the time. Someone famous will talk about someone bad and they get all of these likes and retweets and shares and people start looking up their name and all of a sudden they're trending instead of something that they like. So I would rather just not say a name, especially in a negative way, and give them that spotlight that's meant for good people like AJ and Silas and Gustavo and all these people that I could mention. Look up those people instead. Those are ones, Marvelous Michael Stevens, who you can look up and find all of this good wrestling instead of saying someone's name that I'd rather them not even be famous, you know?
You know, I think that might be the best answer we've ever had to that question.
I appreciate that. Was AJ's answer me?
It was Ultimate. It was either Ultimate Warrior or Goldberg.
Oh wow, wow! Goldberg was nice. I did security for him on SmackDown. He was a great guy. But all right.
But you know, fantastic answer. But we're giving you the default answer, and that is Eva Marie.
Wow. Wait, she's way more popular than me. It depends on what you define wrestling as. No, you're good. Go ahead.
You are main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Of course. Ooh, I mean, if I again can pick anything, it's going to be Kurt Angle. So small detour. I hope this isn't going on too long. My first paper. So I loved college. High school, I had a ton of great experiences, but college, I loved. I never wanted to finish. I took so many extra courses that I never needed because I loved college. But my first paper in college, it was my highest grade. I forget if I made a 98 or a 99 on a college essay. And it was about a dream that you had, which I loosely interpreted as a dream, like a goal. And I wrote it about a wrestling match with Kurt Angle. And so I wrote it to where it could kind of be either way. Either it was a dream I had when I was asleep or a dream as far as a goal. But I went just extreme detail because in my mind, like if you're wanting to be a wrestler, you have these dream moments that you think of. So to me, that was such a big moment. It was the first paper that I ever wrote in college to make such a high grade on it. And it was something I was so passionate about. The teacher actually pulled me aside and talked to me about it and submitted it for it was a collection of essays that was printed nationally. And so she pulled me to the side and talked to me about submitting it for that as well. So it combined two things that I was very passionate about. And so for me, that would be my dream match, no matter the condition or anything. It's Kurt Angle. He's always going to be able to have a WrestleMania main event match, no matter what age or anything he is. So that would definitely be my choice.
I mean, you're not the only one. My co-host Kaliko Yachts, he was when we first started this show, he was in college and he was constantly telling me, "Oh, I wrote this paper about WWE and I wrote this paper about this wrestler." Like WWE and wrestling was his main topics for anything that he could do in college at that time.
It's smart. It gives you so many characters and everything so lively, and then you can do anything. And what are they going to say? Like, oh, well, that couldn't happen. In WWE, it could. In wrestling, it could. In NWA, we can make that happen. Trust me. You can't say that anything is impossible because it absolutely is.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
It's weird because it's not normally something I would think, but I've always enjoyed Triple H, and I love Motorhead. Like Lemmy love Lemmy Kilmister, and so it would probably be that because I did a bodybuilding show in 2014. It was NPC Eastern Seaboard, and I won third place heavyweight. And I, for the posing portion, I used King of Kings.
Awesome.
And it was so fun. And then my coach actually got onto me, not in a bad way, but everyone's so quiet at bodybuilding shows that I actually kind of, like, I looked at the crowd and I was like, come on. And the crowd started cheering and clapping, which they don't do during bodybuilding shows. It is a very quiet process of judging, and I couldn't stand it. And I'm up there with the spotlight and all the spray tan, all these guys. It's a really good backstage atmosphere. All these guys have worked so hard. And I just turned, come on! Everybody just, yeah! Woo! And it was King of Kings playing. And I remember that fit really well with what I was doing. So probably Triple H.
So the King of Kings, not the game.
I love the game, but I don't know. King of Kings was a little bit different. I enjoyed listening to it. So yeah, probably King of Kings.
All right. Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Interesting topic.
You would have also accepted taste great on toast.
Or a great movie, if you've ever seen Kayfabe the movie.
Have I seen Kayfabe the movie? Oh, the
It
Etching
is
Christian?
fantastic. Huh?
The Etching Christian special?
No, so Kayfabe the movie is, if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. It's a Canadian movie about a Canadian independent wrestling promotion. And I recommend anyone see that. It deals with kayfabe, but it's a comedy. It's like a mockumentary. So It's very fun. Yeah.
All right. Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
Ooh, it's technically a fruit, isn't it? But to me, it's a vegetable. I used to hate it, and I would only eat it in a casserole that my mom. It was actually the first time I was ever on the news. She submitted her squash casserole recipe, and they brought us on because we won the contest,
Awesome.
and that was my first time ever being on the news.
So, for the question, it's technically a fruit, but you eat it like a vegetable.
Yes, which is hardly never. That's definitely eaten like a vegetable.
And yes, it is indeed a fruit, but it seems like you're a part of Squash Squad, and that means more.
Ah.
And the no. New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
That's tough. If you ask AJ, his goes halfway up and then down. Although AJ's, I feel, are getting shorter every time because he's getting more and more jacked. So they might be staying the same size, and he's just getting more jacked. I don't know. I'm gonna say it should probably fully cover.
Full coverage.
Probably fully cover the butt cheek. Yes.
All right. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
Not a stranger. No. I talk about Darby Allin often because he was at the early, not early Evolve seminars, but early for me Evolve seminars. So I will tell all my friends, anyone that I'm talking to, anytime we're watching AEW or anything, he's always been extremely nice every time that I would see him at a seminar. I feel like socially he's very, he's quiet, he keeps to himself, but he always takes the time to be kind. And at the time, so I know Priscilla Kelly from early on. She started in Georgia, and so I would see her at shows all the time. I never trained the least, but she would be working on stuff before shows. And I would get in there, and like every once in a while, she would just like practice a move or something on me. Super nice person. Priscilla is awesome. So glad to see all of the success that she's just started to breach the surface of how cool of a person she is, how nice. And so, same thing, I would walk into these seminars and they'd both be sitting there, and I'd walk over and say hi. Hadn't seen her in years. And she's like, "Oh, no, I remember who you are. Like, of course, blah, blah, blah." She'd sit there and talk to me. Darby would talk, be super nice. Both of them just great, super nice people. And with Darby, it's just crazy the stuff that he can do and the amount of pain he can withstand. And I feel like either of those are people that you can show to people who aren't into wrestling yet and be like, "Hey, watch this match, watch this segment or this vignette or whatever it is." And people are going to be like, "Oh, that's something I want to watch," which I find interesting that they're both in separate companies, both doing like separate their own thing. But either of those, I would say, I can show you vignettes, show you all these segments, and then show you a match. And people who aren't wrestling people are going to be like, "Oh, I want to watch this. Oh, this is interesting. Oh my God, what just happened?" Like during their matches, they're going to have that roller coaster of emotion that everyone wants to see, even if they're not into wrestling yet.
So, you have not had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket.
No, not a stranger. Not a stranger, no.
And that is the correct answer.
All right. All right.
And
Glad I got that one right.
And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be a part of it. And anyone that wants to find it on social media, I'm glad you're posting all those links, and I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And once again, where can we find you on social media?
Gotcha. So everything, look for the Thoroughbred Anthony Andrews. You can see me on any of the promotions that I'm working for. Like I said, the 25th, I have RCW in San Antonio coming up. April 7th and 8th, we're going to be in Chicago for NWA 312. We will be defending those NWA US Tag Team Championships. It'll actually be the first time that my brother is making it up to Chicago to see me wrestle for those championships. So, yeah, I'm very excited for that. And then, like I said, Wrestling Pro Wrestling, I'll be out during WrestleMania week, wrestling for them out in Burbank, California as well. And then we just have a ton coming up. I would just keep up to date with AJ Cazana, myself on social media. And you'll see where we're at all over the country. We have Tomahawk Pro Wrestling coming up in Lufkin, Texas. And we have just all over the place. We're excited to be coming out and wrestling near you.
And we can find you on Twitter, Instagram.
Yes, Twitter, I believe, is still Adorable AA. That one hasn't let me switch over. And then Thick Daddy Thoroughbred on Instagram as well as on TikTok. And like I said, you are going to be able to start supporting me directly as well. We're going to have video story shout outs. There's a second tier that is going to have name or business logo directly on my entrance gear. So that'll be on all the live streams, pay-per-view events, any local events. You'll be a part of wrestling history. You can promote your business, anything like that. And then there is a top tier that'll come with all of that, as well as each month I'm going to have a custom piece of merchandise, which I'll post before that subscription is available. This month it is a custom shirt that's not available to be mass produced yet. Next month I believe it's going to be the shirt that I actually have on, which I haven't posted that photo yet. Will be mugs, tumblers, things like that. So each month you'll be able to see before you decide to subscribe.
You said got TikTok as well, correct?
Yes, yes.
So you,
Definitely follow me on there. We've got a strong following going so far and hoping to keep it growing.
you doing the Wednesday Adam dance on there?
Oh, I should. Maybe I can talk AJ into that. We'll do that one together. It'll be crazy. That'll, we'll have to see if we can do that.
Alright, and you don't even have to type it into your Google machine. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Simply go into the description, click the link, and the account will appear on whatever device you're on. You have no excuse. Give him a damn subscription and give him a damn follow.
Definitely, definitely. I appreciate it from everyone and look forward to talking with everyone.
And of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, or on YouTube and Castbox. Of course, this was sponsored by World Energy and Paramount Coffee. Join us all next week for Wrestling with Mania Madness. More information on that when it comes. And of course, every Tuesday and Wednesday, new interviews. Follow the show at Wrestling with E for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing, and links to those interviews, and so much more. You can follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, Anthony, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment, okay?
All right, sounds good.
For our very special guest, Anthony Andrews, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling Wit
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.